My name is Jayson Johnson, and PAD taught me passion and resilience.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the PAD podcast. My name is Rob Morgan. I teach design at Washington University in St. Louis, and I'm just so excited to restart, you might say, after a summer, restart the podcast for an August release of an interview I did with Jayson Johnson. Jayson Johnson was a dance major here, also minored in legal studies. Really fascinating interview with Jayson Johnson. I just had the pleasure of re-listening to it, to do some editing to it, and I'm just so excited to bring it to you. Jayson Johnson is currently the head of strategic partnerships and chief of staff for Genentech, where he's been for about 8 years in San Francisco. For 2 years, Jayson was the commissioner of the Human Rights Commission for the city of San Francisco. He's been on the board of directors for a number of organizations, including the ballet, where he got his start in San Francisco. And he talks a little bit about that entry into that, basically taking a chance on moving to San Francisco, and it really, really paid off for him. So I'm just so delighted to bring this very inspiring talk with Jayson Johnson to you all. So I will stop talking and he will start talking. Please enjoy. My guest today is Jayson Johnson. Jayson, thank you for joining the PAD podcast.
Thanks for having me, Rob. Appreciate it.
You are joining us all the way from San Francisco, one of my most beloved cities ever. I lived there for some time, from San Francisco, California. So thank you for your time. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
My pleasure. I've now lived in San Francisco for longer than I lived in my own hometown of Columbus, Ohio.
Wow. And as we've established, whether it's true or not, we think that dogs outnumber children in San Francisco.
I think it's very true. I definitely see more dogs when I walk around this neighborhood than I see children.
As the kids say, that tracks. That tracks. Well, thank you for joining the podcast. I'd love to kind of get started by just talking about how you ended up at WashU. You're a native of Columbus, Ohio. What prompted you to make the move west to St. Louis, Missouri, and start at WashU?
Yeah, for sure. I think I had a similar experience that many of my classmates had, which was, when you take the PSAT and the SAT and ACT, you start getting, mail from various colleges
Oh, nice. Yes.
trying to recruit you to come there. But WashU was particularly diligent about reaching out with with mail.
Maybe
And
the word is aggressive.
resume is very accurate. So yeah, I received a lot of material from WashU, and they had a really great, at that time, celebrations weekend also, where they accepted students, prospective students to campus to be able to take a tour of the campus, get to know the campus a little more, meet other students. And so I had wonderful outreach from someone who was also from Columbus, Ohio.
Oh.
Stephanie Baker, class 2000, and she reached out to say, "Hey, I'm from Ohio, and I would love for you to come out here for celebrations weekend." I couldn't make it because I actually had a dance performance that weekend.
Of course, yes. I can't have rehearsal.
Exactly. So I ended up missing celebrations weekend, but they allowed me to come the following weekend, and I was able to have a great experience getting to know the campus without all the other, prospective students there. I was able to see it sort of, for its face, and just really loved the campus, loved the culture, loved the strong Black community that's there on campus, and it was definitely home for me.
Oh, nice. So you kind of knew immediately. Sometimes it takes a while, but it just felt like a good fit for you?
Yeah, I knew
That's
immediately.
great.
I had done other college campus tours all throughout the Midwest, through the South, in the East Coast, and the great schools that I toured and liked them. But there was just an energy and a warmth that WashU had that was really important to me. And
Nice.
as I mentioned, the Black community was
Yeah.
really strong there. The Association of Black Students is a really strong student group, and having gone to a public school that was a majority Black student population, it was important to me to go to a school that had a strong Black community. It
Nice.
didn't have to be in the majority of population, but definitely wanted it to be a strong community. And so I definitely felt that built at home at WashU when I came to tour.
Nice. Nice. I often see those tours that someone's walking backwards with a speaker.
And
And usually if they stop long enough for me to say anything, I usually tell the group, I don't even know who these people are, and if their student will even attend Wash U, but I'm like, take my class. I'm always like, I don't care. I will shame myself and, be a shameless plug for my class. I teach a creativity class to first years, and it's hard to get the word out about that class to students who aren't on campus yet. So sometimes I make a fool of myself in front of those tours.
Well,
Um,
whoever that student is that's walking backwards, you should enlist them to join the dance classes as well, because that's
yes,
true skill to take to walk
true.
backwards on
Some
campus.
strong calves. As you know, in San Francisco, you build some strong calves walking up and
Yes.
down hills and walking backwards at a tours here on campus, Danforth campus. So, did you go to Wash U with an intent of a specific major or minor combination, or were you undecided? How did that happen?
Yeah, I came in pre-law.
Ah,
I thought, hey, I'm going to be a lawyer. I want to maybe be an entertainment lawyer, support the arts, etc.
yeah.
So I kind of came in with this ambition of doing something in the social sciences or in in English, maybe in political science. So I kind of like explored a couple different routes, and I ended up, taking English classes, thinking I was going to pursue English as a major. I was like, oh, I guess lawyers have to know how to read and write well, so to take
Sure.
English as a major. And I decided not to pursue that. And then thought about social thought and analysis, which was a major at the time at WashU. I think it has since gone away. And I also had taken a modern dance class my first semester. So I was like, hey, these two majors seem pretty cool. But then I was like, oh, that doesn't feel practical. That doesn't feel like that's where I, should be spending my time. So I then went over to the business school
Oh,
and
gotcha.
looked at there was a major there at the time that was business economics and the law.
Ah,
It
okay.
was a nice blend of business, but also social sciences and of course law. But I also didn't think that that was the right fit. So I came back to arts and sciences and ultimately landed on the double major in dance, social thought and analysis, and I did a minor in legal studies.
Oh, interesting. So you did get some of that law in there with
I
the
did get,
minor. Very
yes,
interesting.
yes.
Nice. And so was that particular matriculation to those three, two majors and a minor, did that take some time? I mean, did you enjoy at least a year of what I call tasting all the ice cream initially, or
I did.
yeah.
My first 2 years, I kind of explored. I was able to get all of my, I forget what they call them, the core requirements, in during that time period. But it
Right.
also allowed me to explore different fields. So I took anthropology, I took political science, I took, as I
Wow.
mentioned, business classes. So all along, I was still checking off all the requirements needed for my core requirements, but I was also able to explore different curriculum and different majors and different areas of focus. And
Nice.
as I mentioned, that first semester I took modern dance, and I think I then took maybe a second modern dance class, but also added ballet and Catherine Dunham technique as well. So I
Hmm.
was able to get a lot of dance in that first year and a half or 2 years before declaring my major. But I ultimately, landed on those two majors and a minor. And I still was able to finish in the 4 years, but
Yeah.
because I was again checking off all the requirements, I still was able to get through my major requirements as well.
Gotcha. I hear that a lot from students who are art sci majors or art sci sort of home division majors, as that they have a lot of flexibility. My own daughter was art sci, and I think she quite appreciated that flexibility to, like you said, you're sort of staying on a path, but you're also a wide net and in terms of your interests. Had you done any dance prior to, like in high school, prior to college?
Yeah, so I came to dance a little bit late and I came to it via music. So I studied or I was in the show choir in high school in
Mm-hmm.
the glee club. And so we did, jazz hands a lot
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in there. And my senior year, there was a performance that my former high school music teacher used to be the music director of. It was called Vaudevillities.
It's a
Variety.
great name.
I know, right? A big variety show, obviously, highlighting the vaudeville era. And it brought together musicians from all over Ohio and performed there in Columbus and Central Ohio. And my music teacher reached out to me because he would needed some more dancers to be in the production. And so he knew I was in show choir, and he was like, "Hey, you're a great dancer. Why don't you do this as well?" And so I ended up doing like six numbers in the performance, and that's why I ultimately missed celebrations weekend for
Oh, of course.
but it was such a fun experience that I loved the dancing, and I hadn't taken any real technique. I had taken again jazz sort of style dance classes and some African dance classes in an upper bound program that I was a part of.
Yeah,
Hadn't really didn't really dive deep into the classical ballet that at that point.
sure.
I got to WashU, it was all brand new, diving into both, technique for ballet and modern dance. Ironically, I didn't take any jazz dance classes while I was at WashU, even though
Hmm,
that was the area I came from. But for me, I think knowing that I was at a deficit, not having any classical or modern dance technical training, I wanted to dive deeper into that when I got to WashU.
I see. I'm glad that that was your attitude towards it because I know some students might, have some dance that they did in high school or any kind of arts, could be just drama. And then they think that when they get to college, they got to get serious, and like focus on something entirely different. And then that was just sort of something I did in high school I shouldn't do anymore. But generally,
Yeah.
students either early or late find their way back into the arts. And I'm glad that sounds like you said your first semester, you took a modern dance class.
Yeah,
So you
for
decided to
me,
keep up with it. I think
kept
that's,
up with it. For me, I was like many students who go to WashU, I was very active in various things in high school. I did show choir, I did band, I did choir, I was in student government, did all the things. And
yeah,
so I knew also that could lead to burnout, because it definitely led to a little bit of burnout when I was in high school.
of course.
Didn't want to repeat that same sort of path. And so as I left for college, I said, okay, Jason, you got to narrow down what is it you're passionate about? What is it you love? What do you want to continue doing? And so I thought about all the things I was involved with in high school. And I ultimately decided not to pursue some of those things when I got to college and focus more on the performing arts, particularly in dance. And
Yeah.
so I danced in the PAD, but I also sang in the gospel choir there at WashU,
Oh, wow. Cool.
Visions Gospel Choir.
Yeah.
I was able to still have that outlet of performing arts, both
Yeah. Yeah.
in extracurricular, but also in my studies. It was an important balance because it allowed me to still pursue my social science and legal studies, but also really have that balance of the performing arts in my life.
Got it. I love that. I love that. Did you find that, and I'm not fishing for any answer here, but did you find that doing, for example, dance made you a better studier? Is that a word I just made up? You know what I mean? Like, did it kind of, was it a bit of a yin and a yang kind of complete whole Jayson Johnson at that point?
Yeah, it definitely did. I mean, for me, I'm such a visual learner, and
Hmm.
of course, dance is all about visual learning,
Of
and
course.
by repeating repetitive movements and mimicking your teachers, and of course, trying to perfect yourself along the way. So I definitely was able to tap into a different learning style and maximize that, in my other studies. So, for
Yeah.
example, when I thought about some of the when I pursued some of the statistics classes I took, having graphs became that much more helpful because I was able to see visually how to represent data in a way that didn't always make sense from a just pure numbers perspective.
Yeah.
So it unlocked something in me for sure, being able to study side by side the performing arts and the social sciences.
I love that. I love that. There's a project I do in my basic set design class. It's a lot of projects, it's a lot of design this play, design that play, that musical, whatever it might be, and we always end that semester because sadly, when you're teaching, there's no collaboration amongst the students themselves. So we always end with something we call generative lab, which is a bit of it operates off of one simple rule, and that is it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And
Yeah.
it's a pop-up exhibit somewhere on campus that the students figure out where they want to do it. And in a way, it's like what you were saying, it's about visualizing data. It's about, we may hear, for example, about a number that is attributed to a number of deaths of koala bears in Australia. But
Mhm.
but you can hear the number, but when you see it, it has a much more profound effect. And so that project sometimes has that aspect to it, but it's usually something that happens on campus for a short period of time before anybody finds out that we didn't get permission to do X, Y, or Z. But yeah, I've been in trouble for, they're like, you can't do this. You can't just walk into the Duck. I don't know if the Duck was here when you were here, but it was the Danforth University Center. And like we did this kind of paper airplane exhibit about what home means to people. And we had people write on little paper airplanes what home means to them. And I got in such trouble. they're, they're like, you needed to fill out this form for this space. And I'm like, oh yeah, we'll be gone by 5:30, I promise. So
That form is gonna be moot. So let me. I'll just
exactly.
out of the way.
Anyway, I digress. But I can't help but knowing what you do now, and let me get your title correct. You are the head of strategic partnerships and chief of staff in the chief diversity office at Genentech. There in San Francisco, based in San Francisco.
Yes, yes.
Um, I've jumped a huge leap, but it seems like the beginnings of your multidisciplinary self, perhaps, were refined, not necessarily began at WashU, but were refined here. Is that safe to say?
I think that is safe to say. Yeah, for sure.
You're talking about sort of you had a minor in legal studies, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's kind of fascinating. So after WashU, you graduate from WashU. You're all the better for it in theory, and then what happens? Where did you go after that?
Yeah, so after WashU, I loved my time performing. I loved my time being in the performing arts, but I didn't want to have a performance career. I wanted to be more behind the scenes. And while I was at WashU, I was able to participate in various things. Of course, WashU Dance Theater, as I mentioned, Visions Gospel Choir.
Yep.
I also have Black Anthology, and I was the director
Yeah.
of dance for
I'm an
that.
advisor for the Black Anthology designer right now.
Oh, great.
They're painting scenery in the shop this weekend.
Oh, nice. I
So,
got the email. I'm on the email list, so I did see that the Black College
yes.
is coming up. So I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, there's a terrific young designer named Obike who's a student of mine, took met too many classes of mine. I don't know why he keeps doing it, but he's designing the show and is doing a terrific job at that. So yes, I'm glad. So you were involved with BA with Black Anthology as well
I
while you were
was.
here.
I
Gotcha.
was in it for I think 2 years. I think my sophomore and junior years, where I was the director of dance.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
yeah, the my first year was it my first year or second year? I can't remember. Either way, Miles Greer, who was class of 2000, he was the director that year and recruited me to be the director of dance. I think that was actually my second year that I did it. And he did one of those things where it's like, I don't know anything about dance, but I know you're a dancer. And he's like, my dad always told me that good leaders find good people to come together and create good work. And so I was very thankful and grateful that he reached out to me and I was able to
Nice.
choreograph a couple of dances for that. And then Lori Crawford was the director the year before, which was my first year, and I
Hmm.
choreographed one piece for that. But either way, it was such a great experience to be able to have that creative outlet as a choreographer, also to bring other dancers into the mix. So
Sure.
that second year when I did it, I used non-dancers in the performance intentionally because I wanted to expand the art of dance beyond just those who were already in the art form. Uh,
Yeah,
and that continues in the work I do. We'll get to that a little bit later,
sure.
um, but no, I really loved my experience. I didn't want to have a performance career. I didn't want to necessarily be a choreographer, but I still wanted to be attached to the arts. And so I pursued my master's in dance, but I did a graduate certificate in arts management at
Oh,
American University in Washington, D.C.
got it. Yeah, yeah.
And so had a great experience doing that. And ironically, I was working while I was in graduate school, I was also working at the Washington Ballet, and I was the assistant to the artistic and executive directors of Washington
Wow.
Ballet.
Wow.
And it was just as Mary Day had just retired,
Hmm.
was the founder of the Washington Ballet.
Yeah.
It just stepped down, and we had a new artistic director, Septime Weber, a new executive director, George Thompson. George himself previously danced for American Ballet Theater and then pursued a career in arts management. So he saw me as his protege
I
to
love it. I love
mentor.
it.
So I had a great experience working there and again pursuing my studies. And it was just great to be able to learn and see real time how theory and practice plays out when it comes to arts management and the art creation in a dance perspective in a dance company.
Nice. What a perfect storm of different creative souls, at one time. I look back on parts of my career and I'm like, if I hadn't met that person, this would
Yeah.
have never happened. And it's easy in hindsight to see that, but at the time, that must have been a really invigorating time in your life
Oh,
to
for sure.
absolutely. Wow.
Because
Nice.
in real time, you're just all about survival, all about like
Yes.
getting the credit or getting the job done or something like that. And then it's later on, hopefully, when you get to a place in your life where you're able to reflect and look back and say, oh, wow, that experience shaped who I am. And oh, wow, I met someone who is the founder of a ballet company. And I was able to be within her presence before she passed away. And
Yeah.
those moments don't always happen. They don't always come. And unless you sit down and reflect and say, hey, I'm grateful for these experiences. And like you
Yeah.
said, they've shaped who I am today.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's very wise advice too, to sort of take a moment to reflect sometimes and go, yeah, I was lucky that that happened and I met that person or wow. So you
Yes.
were at American University, you got your graduate degree there, you said.
Yes.
And that was in, did you say that was in dance, but also was it like a,
Yes.
gotcha.
So yeah, I was my master's was in dance, and then the I did a graduate certificate in arts management.
Arts management. Got it. Yes.
Mhm.
Nice. And then where'd you go? Did you stay in the DC area, which is a
No,
really
I
vibrant arts community?
great place to be, and I loved DC, and I just kind of barely scratched the surface of being able to say I lived in DC. Because at that 2 year mark, when I had just got my master's degree, the Washington Ballet was doing some restructuring, and the role that I was in was kind of, being shifted a little bit. And I,
Mm,
I could have stayed there, but it wasn't going to give me the growth that I was looking for in my career. And so I got on every major ballet website and major modern dance companies website to look to see who was hiring.
yeah.
Applied for various roles, not only in DC area, but also in New York, and of course out here in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I applied for a role. It was the special events assistant at the San Francisco Ballet. And I applied for it, and Sam Leftwich was the hiring manager. He set up a phone interview more as a courtesy, and he's like, "This guy lives in DC. I'm not. I don't have relocation money. We're a ballet company. I'm not
Right, exactly.
flying him out. He's an assistant." So he, took the phone interview as a courtesy, thinking it'd be like a 20-minute call at most. We were on the phone for an hour.
Oh, wow. That's a
And
good sign.
we had just such a fun time talking. And he,
Nice.
Nathan, I was not planning on doing this, but let me just say, if you can find a way to get out here within the next 2 weeks or
Yeah.
so, I can't pay. I can't. I don't have, and this might be illegal, so hopefully I'm not getting him in trouble. But like,
Yeah.
if you can come out here and I'll set up a day of interviews and I'll let you know on the spot whether you got it or not. That way, if you have a few.
Sure.
But he's like, I don't have relocation, so you have to move yourself out here. All the things.
Yep.
And I was like, all right. Well, I thankfully had some miles on Southwest Airlines that were about to expire.
Nice.
Had a fellow classmate, Shavita Ferguson, who was living in Oakland at the time.
Nice.
So I flew out for free and I was lodged for free.
Nice. Shout out to her.
Shout out to Shavita. I just saw something from Instagram on her actually.
Nice. Nice.
But yeah, I came
Uh,
out, had a day of interviews, meeting the full team. And it was actually the last day for the person who was, my predecessor.
yeah.
So at the end of the day, they were having a going away party for her, and it was being held in the executive director's office, Glenn McCoy. And so I finished my interviews, and Sam was like, "Well, hey, how about you go hang out in Glenn's office for the party? They're partying for Tracy." And I was like, "Okay." And I'm like sitting here, and they're like making cosmopolitans, and I'm like, "Should I be drinking? I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
what am I supposed to do? What's the protocol here?" So I was sitting there, like I didn't want to turn down the drink, so I, had it
Sure.
in my
Right.
and I was like, I'll just sip on it. That way, I don't like get too drunk and look bad, look like I'm in bad form.
Trying to make a good impression.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I, sitting there holding my cosmopolitan, and Sam came in and he's like, "Hey, can you come out for a second?" And he
Yeah.
took me outside the office and he said, "We're going to extend the offer to you to take the job."
Nice. Nice. That's
So
fantastic.
yeah, so I
Uh,
got the role, finished my Cosmopolitan.
yeah. And then moved cross country.
Yes.
Wow, that's a big shift. Go all the way from DC to San Francisco.
Huge
Yeah.
shift.
Yeah.
I was, like I mentioned, born and raised in Columbus, Ohio,
Yep.
undergrad in St. Louis, grad school in DC. Now I'm on the West Coast. And what inspired me to even apply for the job at San Francisco Ballet is another shout out to WashU because two things. We came out here to San Francisco for the American College Dance Festival, which was
Right.
a year being held at Cal State University in Hayward.
Okay.
And we had a day where we were able to just have a do some sightseeing and do some touristy things. And David Marchand and Mary Jean Cowell and Christine O'Neill LeBlanc brought us all to the city, and we were able to tour around the city a little bit. I have pictures of me on the trolley cars here
I love it.
here in San Francisco.
Nice.
I sort of bookmarked that. So that was my junior year of college when we came out here, and I was like, oh,
Sure.
San Francisco's a cool place. Let me
It
kind of
is. Yeah. Yeah.
fast forward. My senior year of college, I studied abroad in Australia for a semester. And I was in Brisbane and had a great time there because it was such a fun city, vibrant city, cosmopolitan, but still a little laid back and, not too sort of in your face like a New York or Sydney can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I finished up grad school and I was kind of reflecting on where I wanted to be, as I mentioned, you have some bits and pieces that you're like, okay, I'm in survival mode. Let me just apply wherever I can apply. But there was some reflecting that I did. And part of my reflecting was thinking, hey, San Francisco was a really cool place. It was laid back. It kind of reminded me of Australia.
Hmm.
Everyone who I talked to who lived in Australia or had been in Australia kind of likened San Francisco to Australia.
Yeah.
So that's what inspired me to even look and apply for jobs out in San Francisco and what ultimately led me out here to live.
Sure. Wow. Wow. What's great. It's a great story, honestly. You got the gig and you moved out there. I got a job at San Jose Repertory Theater as a carpenter and ended up doing some painting on the side. But then I was like, trying to find as I like to say, nights and weekends, I was trying to find opportunities to design places. I did a show years ago, Jason. This was at a theater, and I put that in quotes. People can't see this, but it's in quotes. It was a theater above a laundromat called Brainwash in the Tenderloin area, and we did it. It wouldn't have been a theater at any point, except for the fact that the show we chose to do was a Lanford Wilson Burn This play, which is set in a warehouse apartment. So we paid this guy. It was an apartment. It wasn't a theater. We paid this guy like $20 a night to go away and leave his apartment to our care and invite 50 strangers in to see a show above a laundromat called Brainwash.
Oh my goodness.
That was my first, if you want to call it that, first professional gig was doing a show in San Francisco above a
I love
laundromat.
it. San
So,
Francisco is one of those places where art making happens in the most creative spaces.
yep.
That's one of the things I love about living here. Another funny story, and I wasn't a part of the performance, but every year there's a drag show called Golden Girls Live.
Uh-huh.
A bunch of drag queens get dressed up looking like the characters of Golden Girls.
That is
Um,
classic.
and it started the very first performance that they did, which I went to, and this was like I think 19 years ago. It was in someone's home, so very similar theater making to what you just described.
Sure, exactly.
But it was in someone's home, old Victorian, nice sized living room, maybe 30, 40, 50 people maybe gathered in there, kind of describing that similar to what you described.
Yeah.
Um, that show has been running ever since for the last 19, 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
Today, it's no longer in that house anymore, thankfully, because it has grown
Of
so much.
course. Of
It
course.
is now performed this year or in 2020, in December 2024, they performed it in the Koran Theater.
Wow.
It's a huge
A
theater space.
huge space, yes.
It's where many Broadway shows come
Of
to perform.
course.
In fact, I just saw, I can't believe I
Yeah,
came out.
yeah.
I just saw that in that same theater like a month before the Golden Girls performance this year.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I used to design at ACT right next door at the Geary. Well, not
Yes.
right next door, but close.
Yeah, it's right
Uh,
next door. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I went from doing a show above a laundromat to doing a show at the Geary, which was, quite the trajectory. But this is fascinating because it's just making me miss San Francisco even more. But yeah, I remember there was a audience member after that Lanford Wilson piece, Burn This, that said to me, "Oh, you're the set designer? This kitchen it's so real. Like you have real running water and real canned food and I'm like, that's because it's some dude's kitchen. Like it's it's not a set kitchen. We didn't put that there. So we
That's
just paid
funny.
this guy to leave his apartment for a while so we could do a show in it.
But I'm sure
Anyway,
all the audience members thought it was designed that way.
for sure, for sure. Again, I apologize. I digress, but I mean, since then you've more or less made San Francisco your home, if I'm not mistaken, right?
For sure.
Did you get involved with Genentech shortly? How did that whole happen? How did that whole thing
Yeah.
happen? And then you were a commissioner for the city of San Francisco and the Human Rights Commission for a year or so,
About two
which
years. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yes.
talk a little bit about, what happened to you and your career after that.
Yeah, big leap for sure. So I worked in fundraising for San Francisco Ballet for about 5 years, and then decided to have a fundraising career in higher education. So I worked at Stanford Law School for a brief period of time.
Got it.
Worked in a remote office for Harvard University here, that was based out here in San
I
Francisco.
see.
So I did that for another 10 years, and then
Wow.
decided, hey, I'm living here in the Bay Area. Many of the donors who I'm, meeting with are doing such innovative and cool things in the technology sector. Wouldn't it be cool to work in the tech sector?
Yeah.
So I started sort of reflecting on, again, where could I fit into a tech sort of company, and how could I leverage my skills in fundraising in a corporate setting? And so I really just started networking with a lot of my colleagues and friends and people I've met over the years. And a lot of people recommended they recommended recruiting as a career where I can use transfer my skills in fundraising into recruiting.
Yeah.
And very much so, that's exactly what I was able to do. I was able to get a role at Genentech, doing executive recruiting, specifically focusing on diversity recruiting here, and was able to leverage all those skills of, networking and building relationships and connecting, opportunities that people can have and making an impact through their philanthropy. Now I'm doing it through making an impact through their skills that they bring to the organization.
Nice.
And so pardon me, I did recruiting for the first part of my time here at Genentech, worked in our talent acquisition organization, and now I work in the Chief Diversity Office. So we launched our Chief Diversity Office in 2020, and we were able to establish a three-prong approach to our D&I strategy. The first pillar being fostering belonging, the second one being advancing inclusive research and health equity, and the
Hmm.
third one being transforming society. And all three of those are really helping us fulfill our mission of being an organization that puts science first and ensures that our science and our medicines are effective in all patient populations. And it's really about embracing the diverse world around us through those efforts.
Wow. Wow. And your people skills, obviously, from, like you said, collaboration and building community, a lot of that came, I would assume, from being a dancer and collaborating and creating. I like to think of sometimes a drama or a dance production as a product. Like my product is this, it's a show, and the deadline is opening night, and the budget is XYZ, so it seems like maybe you were able to leverage some of those people skills into your current role.
Very much so. I mean,
Yeah.
as a performer, as a dancer, as a theater administrator, you have to be creative. You have to figure out how to navigate unknown spaces or unknown situations where, you may not know where your next budget's coming from. You're producing a show, and you may be sort of waiting to the last or getting funding at the last minute, but the show still must go on. So you still have to figure out how to make things work. Same situation in recruiting and also in D&I. We're forging ahead and trailblazing spaces that have not been explored before, both scientifically, but also when it comes to ensuring that our patients pardon me, the patients that we're where we do our clinical studies
Yeah.
represents a broad breadth of patients. And so, a lot of the work we're doing is about venturing into the unknown. It's about improvisation. It's about creativity.
Yes.
It's about learning on the job and learning on the spot and adapting to the environment. And all
Yeah.
skills are things that you definitely learn in performing arts department, both in dance, but also in acting, in theater,
Sure.
in theater design. So yeah, a lot of things that I learned in PAD, I'm applying daily in my role.
Yeah, I think that's just so admirable. There's remind me a little bit of I teach, I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned in this podcast, but I have a lot of the earlier ones I've mentioned. I teach a class on creativity, and there's a lecture I do, and I highlight the work of a woman named Caroline Criado Perez, who wrote a book called Invisible Women. And it's
Mm,
about how the world is designed, for the most part, until recently, for the 50th percentile male, to the point that even some years ago, the crash test dummies for cars were a male figure.
mhm.
It's like, wait a minute, like the female form is different anatomy entirely.
Yeah.
Why do we not also have crash test dummies that are in the form of a woman? And so I talk about the work that's in this wonderful book that this woman wrote, and and one of my favorite parts of the semester is I say there's a word for that. And as you know, many WashU students are like, "Oh, there's a word for that. I need to know what that word is." And I this is a class of 80 first year students, and I'm like, "Does anyone know what that word is?" And usually no one does. And the next slide, I hit the button. It says bullshit. It's a bullshit that the fact that and some students like secretly take a picture of this word bullshit on the screen, and I'm like, please don't send that to your parents. But there is this lesson here that we need to be thinking about all consumers of all types, of all backgrounds, and kudos to you for the work that you do in that regard. I would love to know a little bit more, having been a sort of former San Francisco resident
Mhm.
back in my younger days. You got involved as the commissioner for the Human Rights Commission for the city of San Francisco. How did that happen?
Yes, yeah. So again, I just love, serendipity,
Yeah,
how
sure.
right place, right time type of thing. So a couple of things. So before I dive into that, so I've come full circle in that, my first job here in San Francisco was working in the special events department at the San Francisco Ballet. It was an entry level role. It was, my first job, all that good stuff. Fast forward to today, I'm now on the board of trustees of San Francisco Ballet.
Nice. That's
I'm
fantastic.
I'm now the chair of the development committee, which I used to work in the development department.
Fantastic. I love it.
I'm on the executive committee and I'm also on the nominating committee. And so talk about full circle.
Yes.
Huge example of full circle. So one of my fellow board members, Tom Horn, he used to be, or I'm not sure if he's still the chair or not, but he used to be the chair of the War Memorial Complex.
Oh, yes.
War Memorial Complex, for those who are listening, is the venue where the San Francisco Ballet and the San Francisco Opera performed.
Yes. It's
Also,
on Van Ness, if I'm not mistaken,
it's
right?
on Van Ness,
I used to
exactly.
live right up the street. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, the opera, the symphony, the ballet all perform in the various complexes that are run by the War Memorial Complex.
Got it.
Tom Horn, he, as I mentioned, was the chair of the commission that is the War Memorial Complex. So he, knew that Mayor London Breed, who just stepped down as mayor of San Francisco,
Hmm.
was looking for new commissioners for the various openings that were across the different commissions for the city of San Francisco. He knew that she was committed to diversity, so wanted to find both younger commissioners, but also people of color,
Yeah.
LGBTQ plus, et cetera, who could serve on these commissions. So he introduced me to the idea of joining a commission. And so of course I had a chance to meet the mayor, meet some of her staff, and got to know what opportunities were available to join. And so ultimately was appointed to be on the San Francisco Human Rights Commission as commissioner for a couple of years.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a great experience. One of the things I also love about dance and loved about dance at WashU in particular is that I got to know about so many different cultures through dance. Mary Jean Cowell, who used to chair the dance department, was very much committed to dance as a cultural form, not just simply, a performing art. And really tapped into the cultural roots of where dance comes from, how dance is performed, how different bodies perform dance, and what are the cultural implications or messaging that is in dance. And so I think about the arts in general, and particularly the performing arts, as a way to explore new cultures. And so it was just great to know that my cultural experience with the ballet now led to the great work I was able to do with the Human Rights Commission and get to know the Bay Area community and the various cultures that make San Francisco such a great place that it is, and doing what I can to carve out paths and break down barriers for all of our citizens here in San Francisco to really live, amazing, vibrant lives here in the city.
Yeah, that's just so inspiring, Jason. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I said this off air, but I'm gonna make sure I say it on air. And there are a number of my colleagues who said, if you can get Jason Johnson on the PAD podcast, that'd be a huge get, like talk about huge gets, whatever that means. And I think they all knew. I'm speaking for them. Mary Jean Cowell, Christine Knobloch O'Neill, David Marchant. They all saw in you this fantastic student who would be a game changer for the world. And I just think that's fantastic what you've done, and working for the city of San Francisco as a commissioner for the Human Rights Commission. Amazing, amazing. I think that's incredible. I mean, I know these buildings you're talking about, having lived there, and I would have never have dreamed I would be meeting someone who's on the board of trustees for the ballet, first of all. But
I trust me, I never dreamed I would be on the board of trustees. I definitely
never say never.
Yeah, I definitely thank, my lucky stars. Thank God. Thank all the spirits
Sure.
that have gotten me to where I am today. I really am grateful, and I recognize and acknowledge the pathway that was carved for me and how important it is for me to carve out paths for others.
Yeah.
So, for me, and this is a bit of a plug, that it's important for me to also be involved with WashU. It's important for me to be involved at American University. It's important to be involved in the various organizations that got me to where I am today along my professional and personal journey. And
Yeah.
so, ever since I graduated from WashU, I've done something to give back, whether it be donating to my class reunion gifts or donating to the annual fund or serving on committees for our reunions or other activities here in the Bay Area. And
Right.
so my little plug is to also be involved with WashU, be involved with the PAD. I donate to
Yeah.
PAD every year and just did so
Thank you.
in December. So
Thank
I
you.
definitely encourage listeners to get involved. I know that Rob didn't put me up to that. So for those who
I
that's
did not. I appreciate you donating your time to a guy doing a podcast who shouldn't be doing podcasts. But it's been an inspiration talking to you, and now I understand. Honestly, it's been some months since my colleagues were like, if you can get Jayson Johnson, man, that would be amazing. And now I know why, because I've had a chance to share some time with you. So I'm very, very grateful for that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm grateful for all those who shared that about me, and I'm glad to know that I have that impression on folks, and
Oh my gosh.
it
Yes,
lets me know
yes.
that I'm doing the right thing and doing what my parents taught me to do, which is really
Uh,
leaving a positive impact on the world and the people you interact with.
you got a lot of PAD admirers, that's for sure. Uh,
It's
would
it's mutual for sure.
Oh, nice, nice. So great to talk to you, Jason.
Likewise,
Thank you
Rob.
for your time. If you're ever back here in St. Louis, please look us up. We'd love to, yeah, march you in front of students and have you inspire them as well.